was me, Brandy, the engineer, and Ro James in one room for 4 hours. I got to do background vocals with her. She was asking me, "Oh, what should I put right here?"
I have a dream.
DuRags and Dreams.
I have a dream.
I ain't ready yet. I got a dream. Please let me handle that. Tell me what I need. Copy that. Got good jeans, good sneaks, and a do-rag. Pick your head up. Keep your crown up. It feel good so you don't it. Just a heads up. Don't ever let up. It's really yours if you want it.
I have a dream. Here's the house. I have a dream.
What's up, dreamers? Thank you for clicking on this episode of DuRags and Dreams with me, your favorite host, Season 2 era and completely healed, Andrea Sejour. Listen, I am overly excited today because my dreamer today is a serial dreamer. I first ran across this young lady on YouTube over 16 years ago, but boy have her dreams amplified. She's touched some of the world's biggest stages, and we're going to sit here and talk about them all. So without further ado, Dream Team family, please help me turn the lights on and turn them all the way up. For my friends in our family, Deanna D. Dixon. Hey, D.
First of all, you're so good at this because the way you introduced me, I was excited to hear from you.
You should be excited. Oh my God. You should be excited because you are a living legend walking around in these streets. And I don't even know if you know that yet.
I did not know that.
But you know it now.
And let me let that seep in because that's heavy.
Let it seep in. Let it seep in. Listen, like I said, you started singing covers at how old were you?
Oh, child, I gotta do the math. So this is 2007.
2007.
I want to say it's 16 years ago. Take away the age.
Carry one.
I was like 22, 23. I was young.
Listen, and I told you before, you sang Smokey Norfolk's I Need You Now in the most vulnerable manner I've ever heard to this day, and I appreciate it. I appreciated it. I needed it. I listened to it today before you came just to center myself, and it did the same thing it's always done. It's touched me and it's healed me. So take me back to those days. YouTube, you started uploading videos. What was going through your mind?
So I have always, I've never heard someone say it the way you did, a serial dreamer, but I have been a dreamer my entire life. From age 6, I was slanging things, selling things, creating things, and I just always envisioned that I was going to live this big life. And I never forget, I was working at One America, and one of my coworkers was like, "Have you ever heard of this thing called YouTube?" I was like, "What's YouTube?" I might say like letter U and the number 2. I was like, "What is it?"
No, she started on YouTube before YouTube was a big thing.
It's funny, I started on YouTube and I'm back at YouTube because YouTube is the place. It's more of the place than ever before now, just to be yourself and make money. But at this time, it was a brand new invention. It was not a lot of singers on there, but I had a good friend that I worked with that was like, "You can go on there and you can sing." Yeah. And this is
name drop. Who's the friend? Because thank you, friend. Keith, thank you.
Keith Stevens, thank you. I'm still living off of it. See? Wow.
No, seriously.
And you had to buy a webcam back then. So my older brother, Robbie, he had all the gadgets because I don't know nothing about technology, okay? So he had all the gadgets. We had the webcam set up in my parents' house. And at that time, I want to say I was newly married or about to get married. So I would go to my parents' house so I could record videos, and I would beg my brother, like, Bummy, his nickname is Bummy.
What's up, Bummy? Y'all wrong for that, by the way.
I am wrong.
Who gave you that name, friend?
So I gave him a nickname, and I begged him, like, "Bummy, can you please play for me so I can sing and we can post videos?"
Bummy was playing the keys in the background.
That's Bummy.
So those weren't necessarily instrumentals. That was Bummy?
Oh, it was almost always live. This is the beginning. So you couldn't go on YouTube and find an instrumental. Like, He was my instrumental.
Gotcha. I didn't know that.
So yeah, he was accompanying. Somebody actually made a joke. They said, I still remember him taking a phone call.
Yes, I remember that too. I remember that. You was real big upset about that.
I was big mad because he would not care. He would answer a phone, he would text, and he was my instrumental. So how you gonna do that to me, bro?
How would you do it to me?
But at that time, it was new, and I was hopeful, and I was like, you just never know. And that video actually is what helped me to segue into moving to Atlanta. When I moved to Atlanta from Indianapolis, people knew who I was off of my YouTube page.
Yeah, Deanna from Indiana.
Yeah, Deanna from Indiana. And so like I started posting in 2006, 2007. I moved to Atlanta 6 years later. And people, my business partner, matter of fact, that I started this business called the Singers Room, Singers Movement. He knew me. He was like a fan of mine. He was like, is your name Deanna 040384?
Oh my God.
I was like, yeah.
Not the numbers.
So he knew me from that, and it was the inception of us starting an incredible journey together that still lives on. We're still working. And so yeah, like YouTube really changed my life.
It's really a full circle moment because I met you, I saw you first on YouTube, and I thought you were in Atlanta at the time. You were in Indiana.
I was in Indiana.
I met you on YouTube, and now 16 years later, you're in my home, and I'm interviewing you on my couch for YouTube.
Incredible.
And it's always the full circle moments that really hit home for me, and I can't thank you enough for saying yes to it. So look, Bun B's playing the instrumentals. You are singing the songs down. I remember you saying something along the lines of you never had a plan B. You didn't want to go to school, so singing was what it was going to be.
Yes.
In your head, when you were singing those songs, did you know that this was going to be the thing that propelled me into my career?
So to be honest, my answer and my sentiment has changed so much and so many times. So at that stage in my life, when I was like, before I had experienced rejection and failure and setbacks, I was so laser focused. This is the end all be all, and I have broken up with music probably every other year since then. And so we dating now.
Okay,
we dating. I'm trying to see. Yeah, and so like, you know, music for me has been the biggest vehicle that's walked me into doors and gave me visibility that I probably wouldn't have been able to have if it was just off of the strength of who's this random girl. So I'll be using music, and music be using me. And one day we're gonna find a space where we really respect and appreciate and understand, like, hey, together we are like this magical thing. But yeah, so I didn't have a plan B then. I went to college for 4 weeks, and they sent me a bill in the mail, and I was like, no freaking lie. I went to University of Phoenix, which is technically an online school, right? But you could go to the campus in Indianapolis. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to school. I'm going for business. That's what everybody goes to school for. They don't have a plan.
No, seriously. You ate that up. I was one of those guys too. Sorry.
So I went to school for business administration, 4 weeks in, and you know, still attention deficit disorder, narcolepsy, and so not diagnosed. I diagnosed myself, but school. I'm an intelligent person naturally, but in the realms of like school, you know, like now they've developed all these different ways to teach and to learn, and I just was not that type of student. I did well, but I still to this day have nightmares about, did I really graduate? Like, did I? No, seriously, I have a nightmare. It's a reoccurring dream.
It's giving PTSD.
It's giving
for those 4 weeks.
It's giving no. We're going back to high school. It's giving sis graduated with like a 1.7 GPA just because I didn't try. Don't tell nobody.
No, I'm not gonna tell nobody. I'm not gonna tell nobody if you don't tell nobody. Because we was neighbors with the GPA. We was neighbors.
No, first neighbors?
We were neighbors.
Oh my God. But you know what? The funny thing about it, and I'm going to wait to tell my daughter this. Because where I sit now when it comes to education is it is important, and I do wish I would have invested more time into getting further in my education. Because I believe it just would have given me more leverage in life. Absolutely. It would have diversified some of my risks because I go from homeless to mansions every other year, and that's just not a good feeling. And so it would have provided a little bit more stability. But back then, I was only worried about becoming a star or trying to make it into heaven back then. That was the only two goals
I was happy, baby. Oh my God!
You didn't need a college degree for those things.
Especially not the latter. Especially not the latter.
So back then I went to this University of Phoenix. I didn't have any scholarships, no financial aid, so I was going to pay out of pocket. I still owe them. At least
that first check.
No, I didn't get no check. I still owe them like $4,000 for the 4 weeks that I went.
Y'all will be okay. Hear it from me. Y'all will be okay.
They will be okay.
They'll be just fine.
But I never returned because I was like, I can just go get a job and make more money than most people I knew at that time in Indiana graduating from college. So I did that, and in between would pursue music. I would do my videos. I would travel all around the world auditioning for American Idol. Oh, I don't even want to tell you this one thing.
No, tell me, because that's not all you auditioned for. Were you not on Sunday's Best? Did you?
I was on the first season of Sunday's Best.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't. I said, I know Deanna did this Sunday's Best. You're going to have to tell me about all of these things. But before we do that, I want to talk about the schooling of it all, because you said that you wish you would have done that, right?
I do.
Because of the opportunities that it may or may not have given you, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the person who's watching you right now and they want to sing and they don't want to have a plan B, they only want to do the singing. They want to use singing to take them across the world. One, do you think that person should consider going to school, furthering their education, or not? Do you think that that's something that they should do?
So my new sentiment was for me. Mm-hmm. Just because I know I missed out on opportunities not having the college degree. Okay. Because I did well in the corporate world, but I would only go so far. Mm-hmm. And so I could have been making more money while I was chasing my dreams. But what I would say now to somebody that's toying back and forth with what should I do? I really believe that God created us perfectly, and sometimes we have instincts to do stuff and we don't trust it. But trust your instinct. If something inside of you is saying, go chase your dreams, I only have this much window of time to do it, then go do it and don't have any regrets about it. But if there is something like me, I did toil back and forth with going to school and getting an education. And it took me 10 years to get over the lack of confidence that I had in the corporate world because I didn't have it. I was very self-conscious. Mm-hmm. So something in me always wanted that validation. So because that was inside of me, I always say if it's a desire, it's designed for you in some way. It's supposed to be infused in your world.
If you want it, it's supposed to be in your life.
Yes.
I like that.
And so I resisted it because I threw all my money. I put all my money on the one bet, and we're still figuring it out. But yeah, just trust yourself is what I want to say. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts.
Trust yourself. And like she said, we're still figuring it out. And I don't think we ever fully figure it all the way out. It's a constant.
That's true.
It's a constant battle. It's a constant fight to figure it out. So don't beat yourself up too hard if you haven't figured the things out, because we still haven't figured the things out. I like that. Thank you for that. But check it. Talk about the American Idol, the Sunday's Best, the auditions. Give me the audition, you. How was that world like?
I am a horrible auditioner.
Why?
Ooh.
What makes you say that?
Because I'm a transformer.
Roll out. Wow, that was corny when I said it out loud.
I would transform into who I think they wanted me to be. So I was a black girl. Most of my life I was heavy set. So I'm like, let me give them
let me wail a little bit.
So I was a natural woman by because that's what a black girl is, heavy set sings.
Okay.
But that was not really what was in my spirit. And I would always abandon who I was truly as a vocalist. And I would try to study the years before and who did they pick? And so I was never authentic. So I was probably a TV show's worst nightmare because they want the essence of who you are.
You are.
Whether you feel like it's not good enough, it's something. If you've ever watched American Idol, the best thing was watching people develop over time.
Yeah, honestly.
And even on Sunday Best, one of our favorite vocalists is Leandria Johnson, and watching the development of Leandria Johnson as an artist, as a person, just her story and then to where she is now. And I was never comfortable in my skin. I wasn't comfortable with my story. I wasn't comfortable with my voice. I felt like I wasn't gospel enough, and I grew up in the church, but then I wasn't R&B enough. So I had like just a vocal identity crisis most of my singing life.
Wow.
And so auditioning was a nightmare for me. I would literally use all my PTO days. Every year, so I could sneak and go audition for American Idol. It was American Idol.
How many times have you auditioned for American Idol? Say it.
At least 35 or more.
Wow.
No freaking lie.
Wow.
And do you know the saddest moment in my life was when I turned 28 years old because I had aged out of American Idol. I could no longer audition.
That's the thing?
It's not anymore. It used to be.
I didn't know that.
28 was the max year you could audition. And I never forget. Maybe that's really why I got divorced that year too, because I was just like, forget this. This was my last year for American Idol, so now I really gotta put my all into chasing my dreams. And I got divorced, moved to Atlanta. But yeah, I would spend all my PTO days, and after a while of getting rejected so much, I stopped telling my family I was auditioning because it was hard enough for me to deal with the rejection and the letdown of it, but then my family like, not this shit. I'm like, listen, y'all, it was still a no.
Yeah.
It's still a no, and this isn't helping me. So I would sneak around auditioning like every year, multiple times a year, go to different cities.
Wow. You were dedicated though.
I was dedicated to go nowhere. So I would do American Idol. I did The Voice 2 or 3 years. I did Sunday Best. Sunday Best is probably the only show I actually got selected for. So, okay, going back to your original question, you said, how was I as an auditioner? I never could pick the right song for my voice. I struggled with what song was going to showcase me the best. So, that's why I really can't remember what the freak I sang.
It was probably the wrong song.
It probably was the wrong song. And then the song that I would rather talk about the song that they chose for me to sing.
Oh, they chose songs for you to sing.
They chose a song for me, and it was a Fred Hammond song. Oh my God.
Fred Hammond, I See It.
Oh my gosh, it's not a good solo
It's not a
song.
solo song. How did you do with it? How did you do it?
Horrible.
You didn't think you did too well?
No, it wasn't. I did horrible. I sang the lead like I was in the background. And that was something I actually would do a lot. I was more willing to give them a lackluster performance than to crash and burn, which means I would find the pocketest of all pockets and stay and sit, honey, hide.
Self-sabotage.
Hide in that space because I didn't feel comfortable going for blood. Because again, I wasn't comfortable in my gift.
Yeah, and it's so crazy to me because I'm telling you, you were touching me on those YouTube streets.
Well, thank God I touched somebody.
I sang your rendition of Smoky Norwood every time I sang the song. Seriously.
But thank God for the internet. I'm seriously, thank God for the internet for people that I was able to connect with on an intimate basis because I wasn't a good auditioner. That's where I felt most comfortable being myself. That's where I could be vulnerable and really showcase who I was as a singer, and people like you would find me and support me. I thank you for seeing me.
But look, you ain't just stopped at auditioning for American Idol. You didn't stop at auditioning and making it on Sunday's Best. Those 32 or 33 times that you auditioned, they didn't do too well there. But that didn't stop you. You kept going, and that's the next part of this conversation. What was your first big break from Sunday's Best? What would you consider that?
You know what I would consider my first big break after Sunday Best was the movement me and my business partner created.
The Singers Room.
The Singers Room.
Let's talk about it.
That honestly, first of all, that moment, because my business partner remembered me from YouTube. And from that, I was new to Atlanta, and we decided, I said, I'm going to invite 7 friends, you invite 7 friends, and we're going to meet at your house, and we're just going to sing. We're just going to sing, everybody bring some food, and then little by little, we started coming together every week. We would film it, we would put it on Instagram. This is back in the day, we could only do 15 seconds. Ooh. And so, it was so hard to find, the best 15 seconds. And so we would just post these videos, and we started getting visibility all around, not just the country, but the nation. Mm-hmm. And that really taught me something, is that I never had to be picked by someone. I need to be picked by me, and to be myself so much that the right people would be drawn to me and the wrong people would leave.
Absolutely.
And so that for me was my first big break. And just like YouTube opened the door for Atlanta and the Singers movement, the Singers movement opened the door for when I moved to Los Angeles. Okay. Because the music director of Kanye's Sunday service, his name is Philip Cornish, he had reached out to me. I actually was in the process of relocating to Houston to do real estate. Okay. Wow. I was relocating. I actually did relocate there. I moved there. I lived there for 1 week.
Wow. In Houston.
And the week that I was there, I got a call from Phil. And he was like, hey, D, you still in Atlanta? I was like, technically. I didn't really get into... That's why you tell people what they need to know. And I was like, I'm transitioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm transitioning. He's like, okay, well, can you get to California? There's an audition for Sunday service. And I remember I had been seeing videos go viral, and I thought it was super cool, but it wasn't like, oh, I want to be a part of it. I was just fascinated by these group of people singing on the dirt.
And dancing too. They're doing choreography.
Music. It was just so fascinating. And I was like, that would be cool. I really didn't put a lot of stock in it, but I was like, that would be cool. So my manager that had literally created a job for me to start in Houston, she knew about my music background, and she had a dance background. And so when I told her about the audition, I said, I'm going to just go audition. I'm going to be there for a week, and then I'll start the following week. She's like, yes, girl, this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Go do it. Come back. We'll start later. So sure enough, and she was supportive because, like I said, she was a part of the arts world too at one point in her life and had regrets about not chasing it more. So she was super supportive. Let me go out there. When I tell you, when I got off the plane flying to Los Angeles, it was the weirdest feeling because I knew I was actually in my new home. I knew I was supposed to live there. That's why I said, trust your gut, trust your instincts. Don't doubt it. Don't overthink it. Most times if it's an idea, it's because it's a part of your design, it's a part of your story. Wow. And so I didn't have a plan at all to move there, but I knew I was supposed to. Yeah. So I did the audition. Audition went well. I was there, scheduled to be there for 1 week. And like I said, the Singers movement opened doors for the next chapter of my life.
And rightfully so.
Rightfully so. And so Phil knew me from that. And then a lot of the directors and people in leadership, a lot of the people that were in the choir knew of me. So it was almost like I kind of had a built-in advantage because people knew me. But it did kind of make some people a little mean, though.
You think so?
Just a little bit. Just a little. Not mean. Mean is not the right word, but standoffish. Because sometimes people have an idea of who you're going to be because of who you are.
Or who they see you,
Who they see you as and who they think you are. But then when they meet me, like, I'm nothing like that.
The sweetest thing.
I'm not that sweet. But I'm a nice person. I am much nicer than they probably anticipated me being. So some people were very standoffish, like, you know. So, but that opened the door. I went to California. I auditioned. The audition went amazing. I got selected. And the week I was there, opportunity after opportunity was like landing in my lap. I want to say the first week I was in California just visiting for the audition, my good friend, Ro James, said, hey, are you in town? Yeah. And I was like...
That's my cousin, y'all.
Is it for real?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
But he asked me, was I in town? And I was like, yeah, why? He was like, I have a session with Brandy.
Wow.
And...
Your idol.
Do you want... Listen, I can't even believe I can't believe I survived to tell the story because I always imagined I would die meeting her.
Wow.
And I never imagined, and actually it was funny because leading up to me getting to meet her, all of my friends was meeting her. So I kind of was like, like literally Brickley got to sing in front of her. Like all of my industry peers were posting these videos, meeting her.
You were late to the party.
I was like late to the party. I'm like, womp womp. But the way it happened for me was so much greater than it wasn't like I was meeting her as a fan. Yeah. when I tell you I got invited to a studio session, it was me, Brandy, the engineer, and Ro James in one room for 4 hours. I got to do background vocals with her. She was asking me, "Oh, what should I put right here?"
Good job, Mama. Good job.
Oh yes, I put that on my little invisible resume.
Wow.
I smoked with her.
Nice.
Like, I mean,
The whole vibe.
it was a whole vibe, and it was surreal, and it was confirmation that I was on the right path. And it still freaks me out because it's like one of those moments where you're there and you're like, oh my God, if I don't record this, nobody's gonna believe me. Nobody's gonna believe this is real. So like that was one moment where I had my phone and I'm just like recording my foot. I'm recording my foot just so people could hear
the background,
the ambiance, and I'll be able to like say, hey, you hear this audio, and you could copy and paste this from the. I had my receipt. I was only gonna have a receipt, and then towards the end of the session, Ro, I think he went live or something, and so it was like me.
That's all I need right here.
I was like,
Please go live. Please go live.
And so like she posted it, he posted it, and I was just
in awe.
I'm still not. I don't even know that I've told this story.
You know what's crazy about that? Sometimes we tell stories for the first time in conversations like this. I told a story for the first time last night, and I was mind blown by the story. So I completely get what you're saying.
Yeah,
completely understand.
Because I think a lot of major moments that happened in my lifetime, I wasn't there. I couldn't be there because if I was there, I would probably freak out. So a version of me was there, but now I'm at an aerial view looking back like, that's freaking wild. You moved to Houston, Texas to start a job, went to California for an audition. All of your dreams started to come true like this.
Within a week of
Within
Houston
a
and
week.
LA.
It was 1 week.
Yeah.
1 week, all these things started happening. And I remember flying back to Houston, and I called my boss, and I was like, I got good news and bad news. And she was like, okay. The good news, the audition went well. Bad news, I won't be started.
Sorry, friend. I lied.
It was amazing because she was like so supportive because she wished she would have chased her dreams more. And she was like, listen, if things don't work out, your job will always be here for you.
And that's a blessing too.
It was because it gave me kind of like a little safety net in my heart because I knew I was taking a big risk.
Is it still hitting you?
Like, that's incredible.
It is incredible. You are an incredible talent.
No,
really
but
are.
I smoked weed with Brandy.
Oh,
I never got to say that.
That's why we didn't even know Brandy smoked weed.
Oh,
we didn't even know that she did the things. The only reason why I couldn't join y'all is because I'm over here.
Puff passed. Wow. Yeah. I'm still like taking it in, and I'm just thinking about how YouTube opened up Singers Movement, and Singers Movement opened up Los Angeles, and then I was a part of Sunday Service for 2.5 years. Now
2.5, 4 years you did that.
Yeah.
Wait, so did you have vocals on Jesus is King?
I am Grammy nominated. I need to get my plaque. My peers done got their plaques. I need to get my plaque. I was on. First of all, I did 3 albums with him.
Oh my God.
So I think I did. No.
Okay.
It's after that.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
Jesus is Born, Jesus is King, and then some of Donda.
Okay. Wow, dude.
Yes. Oh my God.
That is insane.
So I did that. I did his Closed on Sunday music video. I got to do some really amazing things while I was in California. What's important for me to say though, because I started writing this book a long time ago, and maybe this is why I haven't finished it, because the book was called Life After, and it was supposed to be life after, like trial to triumph, right? But now I'm understanding that life after success is probably the most debilitating time in most people's lives, because I'm talking about all these occurrences that are so like mind-blowing, but then there's the other side of it that was really, I suffered a lot during that experience, because like I talked about when I first joined Sunday Service, I believe people had an idea of who I was going to be. So then that was one. And then who I showed up as was not my authentic self because I was drinking so heavily to navigate the most anxiety I've ever experienced in my life. I was so uncomfortable because I didn't know anyone. I felt alone at the first 6 months of going to California. My daughter stayed with her dad until I got settled. I was technically homeless because I had moved to Houston and ended up ending that situation to go to LA. So I was staying in hotels, Airbnbs. I will never forget this story right here.
Give it to us good.
This had to be maybe my second month there. So when I first started Sunday service, because of the way my life was set up, I was really barely breaking even because I was paying for hotels. I had to pay for Ubers. I didn't really have friends. So anywhere we needed to be, I'm Ubering around and hoping to make a friend and get a ride. And I'm in between, with off days, I'm flying back to Atlanta to go see my daughter.
Wow.
So I'm going back and forth. My car's in Atlanta. My clothes are in Atlanta. I'm living out of 2 suitcases and traveling back and forth with this. So I didn't have any money. And I never forget, there was this moment. I might have had $100, and I remember we were flying back from a gig, and we were sitting on the bus, and everybody was leaving in their Ubers to go home. We had got back, it was maybe 1 o'clock in the morning. I remember I had like $100 to my name at that point. I'm like looking up Airbnbs, trying to find somewhere desperately that I could go that would sometimes you could do the instant approval. I couldn't find an instant approval within my budget range. So I really had nowhere to go. I couldn't afford to pay an Uber and pay for somewhere to live. So I literally was on this bus. My phone was about to die. I think I had like 10%. Wow. And there was this one girl, her name, I hate that I'm not remembering her name. We're just going to call her Angel because that's who she was in that moment. So I'm sitting on the bus and she's like, "You okay?" And I was like, I could lie or I could be honest because I'm not. I really have nowhere to go. I don't know where I'm going to go. Once this bus leaves, after I'm charging my phone, I'm about to be out here on the street. And so she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Actually, no, I don't have anywhere to go." And I remember she said, "You're not no murderer or nothing, right?" And I was like, "No."
You had to be clear now.
No.
You had to be clear.
I was like, "No." And she let me stay with her that night. And I remember it was the most beautiful moment with her because she was this singer and she was like a hippie girl. So she was so free. This was in LA.
Oh, yeah.
She lived by Redondo Beach. And so she just was this hippie free. She had a little studio apartment, but it was so beautifully decorated with all this greenery and this aquarium, and it just felt so safe. And I was so grateful that she let me stay. She let me stay there one night. So they gave me a night to try to figure out the rest of what I was going to do the next day. And I remember in my heart, I was like, "Please let me stay."
Okay, I was going to ask you, I was like, did she say only one night?
She said one night. She said one night, which was fine. That was still generous because I didn't have to sleep outside.
Yeah, I get it.
And so I just remember, I was just like, "Oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do." And I feel like a bum half of the time I was in California. That was the thing. So I'm doing all these incredible things, but I'm technically homeless and didn't have a plan set up to go there. So I'm over here
winging
it, not even having money saved up to where I could even get a place.
No cushion.
So that was the hardest part because I'm like, okay, I need to find somewhere to live, but right now I'm barely making it because I'm flying back and forth, paying for hotels. And I was just like, I remember it was a few people I started making friends with. There were a few people that saw me. They were those are my little angels. Yeah. I just remember them seeing me and saying, "We see you." Yeah. One guy's name was
good to be seen.
Oh, yeah. Especially there. Yeah. This guy Musique, I remember this was maybe my 3rd month there. So I went August 2019, and I remember I became friends with this guy named Musique, and I finally was like, "I just need to come to your house and I just need a vent." I went to his house and I just sobbed. I said, "I am a loser. I am homeless. I have nowhere to go. I am so tired." I was like, I can't even really be honest about my situation because I don't have anyone. And he ended up sending a text to somebody in the choir and had heard about somebody trying to rent a room, and that was the beginning of me. Oh God, I tell you, being honest is so freeing because sometimes we want to put up this facade, but I had to be honest. I was like, listen, I don't have any money for a deposit, but I can make payments. The girl, Kiki, she let me make payments. I rented a room. It was a 5-bedroom house that had 6 people living in there.
Oh, Lord. You ain't had nowhere for you to go.
No, I had a room.
You had a room, okay.
I rented a room with $1,250 for one room.
Okay.
Shared bathroom. Near Leimert Park. That was my first place.
Okay.
So I think I moved there October, November. When I tell you I was, so 3 months after being there. So I was like.
It was starting to look a little bit better.
Little bit. But like I said, all these amazing accomplishments, but was coupled with really sad, like humbling moments alongside it. And I think where I am now on my journey is secrets kill, secrets trap, secrets suffocate, and I'm just like so walking in my entire truth. Like even where I am now, like yes, I've done these incredible things, but we're still figuring it out. We're still figuring it out, and I was figuring it out, and I actually can't believe how I was able to figure things out.
Tell me about it.
Like, I mean, just finding places to live, like getting my car shipped out there. You know, you talked about what album I was on. It was because of those albums that I was finally able to get a little bit of a head. Yeah. Let me tell you what I did with my little money I made off the album.
Let's hear it.
Okay? I took that money I made and I started a clothing line, and I started a business called The Only Music Society. Okay. And I started selling shirts. Like they will tell you, people in that choir, I had no shame in my game.
I think that's the beauty.
I literally found out about this place called the Fashion District in LA where you could get shirts printed and stuff like buy in bulk. Honey, I took my $1,000 and I invested in about 100 plus shirts. It said like singers only, dope musicians only, no auto-tune needed. And I used my singers movement, singers only persona to push these shirts, and I was selling the mess. I would show up with trash bags filled with merchandise. I was selling, and I never forget, like the director, he called me out. He embarrassed me so bad. He said, if you don't stop turning my place into a flea market. I did. But like
if he only knew what you were doing though.
If he only knew, like, I was really saving myself from, you know, trying to keep a head over my head. It was just, that journey was very, what do you call it?
Necessary.
I like that. I like that word.
I like it too. And you're really sitting here preaching to me. You don't know it, but you preaching you stepping on all these toes. You really are. You really are. So, Kanye, in my book, it wasn't the highlight of your successes. You also hit the 94th Oscar stage. That's one of the world's biggest stages. Give me that experience. What was that like? What was the mentality? What was the emotions? What was the aura, the atmosphere? Give me all of that. Give me that.
So, again, going back to, it seems like one opportunity begets the other, right? So from Sunday service and all the relationships and connections that was established in Sunday service, I actually got a call and they were like, hey, are you available on this day, right? Didn't tell me what it was for. They was like, there's a session.
Who's the call from?
Somebody
You don't even know who the person was?
No. It was one of my peers. I want to say it was one of the altos in the choir. Her name was Deanna.
Okay.
She said, I can't tell you what it's for, but I promise you it's going to be worth your time. And she was like, just let me know if you're available. And I was like, yeah. This was when we were doing spot gigs for Sunday service. I'm like, this is available. And if not, I will move something around to go. So I remember like meeting up at the session, and I was referred for it, you know, and that's the most incredible thing. Like when I say work begets more work, and when people know you and they've worked around you and your names are in rooms before you get there, it's really an incredible experience. So I got in the room and we had to sign our NDA. And
There you go.
I think I still didn't know who it was for. It said like Parkwood.
Okay.
It said something like Parkwood.
I'm sure
like,
it said Parkwood.
and so we kind of started doing, I think it was Parkwood. I hope I'm not wrong. But like little by little, I think I might have Googled Parkwood so I could see what is this?
Who is Parkwood?
But when we started singing and hearing the vocals, that's when it clicked for me. And I was just like.
So what was that like? Do you hear, is it an instrumental track with background vocals? Is it lead vocals here? Is it what? What is that?
It was her vocals. It was her vocals. And I was just so blown away because it was me, 3 other girls, and 1 guy that was called to do this. And I was just like, how did I get picked? Like, I just couldn't believe it. Yeah. I couldn't believe, like,
I can believe it though, Deanna. I can believe it.
I mean, I'm glad you can. Because I couldn't. Because I was just like, how? But I'm going to tell you, this is an important piece of the story. Okay. 3 weeks before I got that call, because, you know, the pandemic was pandemicking, life was lifing, and I had gotten introduced to someone from one of my other friend peers. Her name is Jasmine Henson. She put me up on one of her spiritual teachers, and the spiritual teacher's name is Abraham Hicks. If you don't know who she is, Google her. Changed my freaking life, because it started with, I think she had reached out to me. She's like, hey, call me. I hate talking on the phone. So
I know.
So when she said call, I was like, I'm trying to get mentally prepared for your phone call. But I have never been so grateful to call someone. And I remember I FaceTimed her, and we were just doing the pleasantries at first. Like, how are you doing? She's like, girl, I'm doing amazing. She was just saying, like, all these amazing.
Feel good.
No. She's saying this about her life. Like, I'm doing amazing, better than I've ever been. I'm walking in my truth. Like, she's talking big stuff. I'm in my bag, girl. I'm walking out. She's like, I'm in my season. She's talking really big. And I was just like, I wish I could talk like that. Because I was kind of shrunken down and feeling a little defeated by circumstances again. And she was like, oh no, girl. She's like, this is something I wouldn't tell everybody about, but she's like, there's somebody that I want you to listen to. She's like, it's going to kind of freak you out at first, because her name is Esther Hicks, and she embodies the persona of someone. It's like she becomes another person, which is who she calls Abraham Hicks.
Okay.
She is very massively known. If you've ever heard about Law of Attraction, The Secret, she was a part of that book. She's like all about what you speak and what you think, you're writing and creating your life. And so this was the beginning of changing the way I talked and thought, right? So this was in February, okay? And after I started, when I started listening to her YouTube channels, I became obsessed. I downloaded her podcast every day. I was just like,
yeah, she was feeding you.
She was feeding me and changing the way I thought. And I remember, I was like, I'm about to start walking as if I'm living the life that I want to live. So I was like, I got an idea. I had a car, right? But I was like, while I was riding my bike in California, I kept seeing Teslas. And something in my mind was like, and I kept getting advertisements for Uber, like, you can rent a Tesla with Uber, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay, I need to rent a Tesla, because I need to get in the posture of someone that lives a different life. I need to start walking and thinking, and like even the way I was getting dressed, the way I was carrying myself, everything started to change. And so I was like, I can't just say it and think it. I got to become it.
And I got to become it.
And so February 2022, she introduced me to Abraham Hicks. I immersed myself in it. I want to say March 2022 is when I got that call. And when I say all kinds of things started attracting to me, now the funny thing about it was I was in the process of working on my first music video for my song that I was going to release on my birthday, which is April 3rd.
Okay.
I was wanting to do like this big, massive music video release, and was making all these plans.
We're talking about Healed, right?
Healed.
Okay.
So I got the call to do Beyonce, right? So that was going to happen in March.
Okay.
I'm thinking, I'm still preparing to do this big music video thing, right? Had I not worked with Beyonce, because I kept deferring. I was so nervous. I've never done a music video. I was in my head about it. Budget was an issue. I was like, how am I going to do this? I'm freaking out. Yes, all these things. But I'm telling you, when I say leveled up, like you know how in the Mario Brothers when you step on one of the little mushrooms and you level, I leveled up. Not just because of the name, but I got paid to do a master class with Beyonce, and I watched her work. Even the way she stood in the lighting, the way she directed her team. When I say I leveled up in my confidence, I literally left from those 3 days of working with her. I said, the shoot is on. We're doing it no matter what. Tomorrow we're getting up at 6 a.m. I stopped dragging my feet. I did it. And then so once, like when I tell you when the momentum starts, it starts. It's like this big ball that just keeps getting bigger. So it all started with my mindset.
I got chills on the head, just so you know.
My mindset started changing. I got my little rental test, but don't nobody else know it. But I'm like, I'm embodying my new life. I'm attracting things to me that I wanted. Beyonce call came. Then my whole birthday plan got completely changed. You know why? Because right after that, I got done filming for the Oscars. I got a call. It was like, hey, are you available to do the Grammys with John Legend? And I was like, well, what's the date? April 3rd. That's my birthday. So instead of me paying to do like a big presentation for my birthday, I actually performed at the Grammys for the first time on my birthday. For John Legend. So all of these things are just momentum. And it was just all linked to me changing my mind. When I tell you perspective, oh my God. And I'm not going to say that sometimes you won't get to a place where you forget who you are, where you are, and why you're doing what you're doing. But then every now and then something will click inside of you and you will level up and you remember who the fuck you are. And you're like, listen, I am not my circumstances. This is just a chapter. And who wants a boring story anyways? Who wants a boring story anyways? And so, you know, as incredible as these experiences were and are, I'm sitting here, where we in July 2023, and I'm realizing how my story is still being written in the most beautiful way. Like, it wouldn't be how I would write it, because of course, I want to go. I want to win the game. The game is over. Okay, you won. You want to write it linearly. Yes, I wanted just to ascend. And so after all the highs of Beyonce, John Legend, Grammys, my music video was released. I'm being interviewed, like my hometown got wind of it. I'm getting interviewed by all of our major news outlets. I'm in the newspaper. I'm going to my high school and I'm doing these speeches, right? That's May 2022. My daughter, as I'm ascending, my daughter is descending. And I could not see that, you know, something was off and I had to make a major change. So I ended up making a really hard decision at the peak of what I would consider my career out in LA. Like, my phone was ringing.
Yeah, you had just got the phone with B.
Yeah, listen, my phone was ringing and I was without any effort. My name was circulating in rooms. And I left at the peak of that to save my daughter. And again, was met with a situation where I didn't have a plan, but I trusted my instinct and knew it was time to go back to Atlanta. And the reason why I say the story is beautiful is because the story is not free of pain. It's not free of humility and a little humiliation. And I tell you, after the high of May 2022 and speaking to all of these hopefuls and tell them you can be anything you want and you can dream and dream. And I walked away from my dreams and I ended up in Atlanta in a dark room and I could not get out of my bed because I was suffering. I was so freaking sad. I had left all my friends. You know, I built up a great network of people, opportunities, so much. And I walked away from it because my daughter needed me. And originally when I left, I had like this vision that I was going to hit the ground running. And like, if I can do that in LA, surely copy, paste, repeat, Atlanta, and then level up again. Because you know, for me, LA is a bigger beast than
Mhm,
Atlanta.
mhm.
It's a different beast.
It's a different beast.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I did that. I'm gonna do this
Mhm.
tenfold.
Yeah.
And I got here, and a reality checked me, and it showed me that that just because, you know, like I talked about the book Life After, it's life after success that is so hard, because it's like, where do you go after you perform with Beyonce? Where do you go after you perform at the Grammys, and you're in the newspaper and everybody's cheering you on? And a lot of times you go into hiding is where you go. And I went into hiding.
Wow.
I lost my identity again. I was in a sunken place. I was humiliated. I was afraid that I was going to pick up one of my peers driving Uber. I was afraid of somebody finding out what I was doing, because, you know, I was talking big stuff like, yeah, I'm going to Atlanta. You know, I done made my contacts.
And I'm about to go down there and test
Y'all
things
call
out.
me. You know, I'll fly back. You know, I came back, you know, thinking, you know, my daughter's going to be closer to her dad, so that was going to magically come back together. It did not. And so it was hard. It was so much harder than I anticipated. But what came from that was, you know, I remember my mom saying, just get out of bed.
Just get up.
Just get up. Because there was really nothing she could say to me to inspire me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sometimes I'm unmotivatable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel you.
When I'm in a sunken place, don't even
Just
try
don't
to
even
inspire me.
Yeah,
like,
let me get myself up out of here.
I can only dig myself out.
Mm-hmm.
But she said, just get out the bed.
Wow.
And I started getting out the bed, and I started driving begrudgingly. I wasn't happy about it, and I was and I actually met my boyfriend driving Uber.
Okay.
And that was the beginning of me healing, honestly, because I never forget, I met him September 2022, and this was out of me finally getting out the bed like my mom told me to do. She said, you never know, you might meet someone. And I remember I met him in the car because he had just had an accident in his car.
Okay.
And he was just so ready to talk to me. And this was before I wanted to talk to people. I'm like, please leave me alone. I'm listening to Abraham Hicks. I'm trying to heal myself again. And so, and I remember he said, how are you? And remember, I had reprogrammed my mind about how I talk and how I speak. So I had to really take my time answering this question. He's like, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm putting one foot in front of the other. And I think I said, I'm transitioning, something like that. Yeah. So I didn't want it to sound negative, yeah. Right?
Or defeated.
Or defeated. Yeah. And so we just started talking, and we started connecting on a level, like, vibrationally. Like, he was into similar types of books, and he was like, yeah, let's exchange information. It wasn't nothing romantic. Like, he wasn't trying to hit on me, I don't think.
Yeah, he probably
wasn't trying to hit on me.
You're a baddie, man. Deanna, you're a baddie. He was probably trying to get some, you know.
So, if he was, it was so discreet the way he did it, because it was like, he's like, hey, you know, maybe we could go to a bookstore one day and pick out a book together. And he's like, let's just exchange information. Send me those books you were telling me about. And so sure enough, I did that. But I was not in the market for a relationship. I was not interested. I was still, like I said, in a sunken place. And so, but he was the beginning of the light out of that dark place, because he was just so refreshing and so sweet and kind.
He told you Shuri wasn't dead. He trying to talk to you about books and stuff like that.
No, like, he was just, he was, and he still is. He is a sweetheart, and he really saved my life twice. Saved my life then because he just asked me how I was doing, and I wasn't okay, but it was something about his presence that I started just being around him. He was such a light. And the second way he saved me was listen, we was a microwave relationship, honey. We met, no, I think we moved in 2 weeks later. I'm not even
please. We know microwave relationships is no other.
I said we fell so hard. Like, I fell for him. We moved in like 2 weeks later. I was like, you gotta meet my daughter, because you know, like, it was so funny. It went so fast, but again, I trust myself with major decisions even before I have all the information. I just knew he was just the one for me. And so that was the beginning of him saving my life, just showing me light. And then fast forward to the Super Bowl. It was this year's Super Bowl. I got so drunk.
Okay.
I had got so drunk. I think I had edibles, and I was just so drunk.
You was up.
I was up. I was acting a plum fool, and it's, you know, like I wasn't like a mean drunk, or I wasn't always like this, but like if I ever went too hard, some of those demons that I haven't really worked through would come out. And I remember him telling me, he's like, "You hurt my feelings so bad." It was the way he framed it. He said, "You hurt my feelings so bad that I almost left you." He said, I said something to him like, "I don't care about how you feel," or something. I was just being mean to him when I came home, and he was like, "Babe, you know, but you shouldn't da da da." And I was like, "I don't care how you feel." I was just mean.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I've never seen you like that before." And that was the last drink I had.
Wow.
And that's why I say he saved my life twice, because I had been toying with the idea of leaving alcohol alone, because it didn't do anything for me. I really was someone that was struggling with depression, and I struggled with depression, and alcohol is a depressant, and that is not a good mixture for somebody that's still healing. And so for me, it wasn't like I'm never gonna. It was like, I have some major healing to do before I ever again. And now on this side of it, because it's been about 5 months, I have experienced another version of myself that I haven't seen in a long time, because I didn't realize I was using alcohol to suppress my feelings, to suppress my anxiety, to try to show up as myself, to feel confident, to deal with trauma that I hadn't dealt with, just a lot of things. And you know, like as Black women, we are praised for being so strong, but nobody praises you for being vulnerable or for being just like sitting in your shit.
Yeah.
And so I just really had never given myself the opportunity to sit in my shit and to be and to feel all of these years. Like, I mean, even I'll go back to the American Idol, like that shit really like for a long time it affected me. Like all that rejection. Imagine auditioning for something 35 times and then getting to know. Do you think you're going to feel great about your gift? Do you think you're going to think you're good enough?
You're going to naturally question.
No, like I'm not a robot. And so I held that. In, and it's just been a culmination of just letdowns, me letting myself down, bad choices, and not forgiving myself for those bad choices. And so for me and for my healing, I had to put the bottle down and realize like it was time to deal with myself. And I will admit that the way I feel now, I can't imagine ever drinking again. Like it's not even a temptation. Like in the beginning, I would like do a little weed here and there, a little edible still, like maybe the first month or two. But now it's just like I am sobered over.
Yeah, you've graduated so fast though.
And I feel so good.
Okay, so the things that you have accomplished have been many, and I am inspired and moved by them all. Let's be clear. Today you have stumbled across a whole nother adventure, and it's now taking over again. Like you said, I think this may be your 6th life, actually.
Yes.
Okay, the rideshare queen of Atlanta. I know what it is, but tell me about it.
Okay, so before I tell you about it, I have to tell you how it started.
Okay.
I had said a prayer as I was moving from California. I said, God, I want to do ministry full time. I want to get paid to do ministry full time. But I was not specific. And I should have been.
Oh, yeah.
Because, honey, I found myself as a full-time Uber driver, changing lives, connecting with people. Like I was being poured in, I was pouring into people. And then there was this one passenger in particular that I will never forget. I was driving him to work and we got into a deep conversation about like, yo, what do you do? And do you love what you do? And I just never forget, like he stared off to the distance and he slowly began to share with me that he was very unhappy. He had just lost a lot of stuff. He was like, he had this persona, was carrying on this facade, and people thought he had it all together, but he really didn't. and he felt ashamed and he felt stuck in a job that he really didn't like. And because I had just recently pulled myself out of hole, I was able to share like my recent story of like, listen, it's okay. Like, this is just a season. It's only temporary. It's just a chapter in your book. And like, what do we say? Who wants a boring story?
Don't no boring
Who wants a
story.
boring story anyway? And the interaction was just so impactful for both of us. Like, we ended up the ride crying, hugging,
Wow.
and we exchanged contact information. He was like, have you ever thought about getting a dash cam in your car? Because you need to get a dash cam so you can start recording your interactions.
Documented.
Yeah, he's like, because if you're like this with me, I can only imagine like just how many people you've touched.
Oh, he was right.
And this had nothing to do with music. He didn't even know I could
Oh,
sing.
wow.
That's the funny thing. It had nothing to do with music. And so he was like, how much is it? I was like, I don't know. He on the spot cashed out me $150.
Wow.
Told me to promise. This was the biggest tip at that point that I ever got. He said, promise me you're going to get a dash cam and I want you to start documenting. I was overwhelmed. I didn't tell him I was overwhelmed because, one, I had been off of social media for so long. Social media has changed. I wasn't into all these trends and editing, and I started to get into my head, and I usually am not that perfectionist person. I would just do it and figure it out as I go, but I was just like, oh my God, I gotta record. I don't know how to do this, and how I'm gonna do TikTok. I'm like on YouTube University learning TikTok, learning how Instagram Reels work. I was like really inundated with all this information, and it was overwhelming, but I did as I promised. I got the dash cam, and I remember my very first week of recording, I was like, my first few rides was like, womp, womp, this is boring. Nobody want to see this. Nobody want to see this. And so I was just like, but just keep the camera rolling. And I just trusted that God was going to start sending me some really great interactions. And the first week, I felt it in my spirit. It was this gentleman. His name is Daryl. Okay. I was picking him up from his first job. He told me he worked 2 jobs. 10 hours, like he was working his butt off. He had just moved from New York, and like everybody else, I'm like tab confessions. People tell me their whole life story. He's like, I mean, well, thank God, because he started pouring his heart out. He's like, I just moved here 3 weeks ago, and my girlfriend, like, we broke up. She was messing with somebody else. Just tell me the whole story, and I was just like, oh, this is liquid gold. This is TV gold. And he was funny too. So I started thinking what my producer had. I'm like, I could tell he was like a light. Have you ever seen some energy come towards you and you could just feel their presence? He was such a light approaching my car, and I was just like, this is about to be good. Yeah. I just know it. I know it's gonna be good.
That's deep.
And he came in my car, and he was just so gregarious, like, hey! And I'm like, okay. And he was like, and the funniest thing is, when you're an Uber driver, we hate when people add stops. And so we're 3 minutes. I'm already, first of all the way in McDonough. If you don't live in Atlanta, McDonough is all the way on the south side. And he was taking a ride from McDonough to Decatur, which at 6 p.m. was going to be an hour ride. So I'm already over here like, oh my God, I'm about to be in the car forever with this guy. And then he's like, I hope you don't mind I added a stop at Chick-fil-A. So he added this stop at Chick-fil-A and then wanted me to take him through drive-thru. So it just ended up being this funny banter between both of us. So it was, and this was maybe the first 20 minutes of the ride was filled with so much entertainment before I even found out he was an aspiring rapper. So we got our food. I'm eating my chicken. He's eating his chicken. He's like, have you ever heard of this record label? And da-da-da-da. And I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, I'm entering this competition where I can get signed. And I said, oh. I'm eating my chicken. I'm like, like, bro. Okay. So what are you doing? I had this little menace look like, ooh, I'm about to get some more liquid gold. And I'm like, so what do you do? He said, oh, I'm a rapper. And he's from New York, so he had that little New York accent. So I was like, okay, he might be able to rap. I said, okay. I handed him my phone. We turned on the instrumental. I said, we got to create a song right now. And we did. It was this organic, beautiful moment. It was like my first real TikTok video. It hit over 1 million views in less than a week. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. I was just like, it was giving gold. And so that happened on TikTok, right? The second week, I don't know what it is with these rappers.
No, it's these weeks for you.
It's in a week, because when you're in alignment, it happens quickly.
Yeah. There you couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, it happens quickly. And so the next week, I ran into one of my industry peers. Her name is Ashley J. That video, we did almost 500,000 views on Instagram. And that was my first big video on Instagram after a long. It was my biggest reel I had ever done. Video was like every time I would wake up, like when I first started posting, I started in June. I think I had 27,000 followers. So in only a month, I have more than doubled my followers on Instagram. I went on TikTok. I had like 500 followers because I didn't know how to use it. Have 22,000 followers. This is all in a month.
Yeah.
And on Facebook, I posted, it was a video. I picked up this white young kid that was here to audition. Another rapper. He was here with his 80-year-old grandfather as his manager. So I dropped his manager. Yeah, I dropped him off. He said he was here to do a competition. He flew all the way from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. When I said I dropped him off at a shopping mall, like it was like some little strip mall area. It was no shade, sorry. I don't know what this competition was, but it was not given. Honey, he got more accomplished in my Uber ride than he did there because he had his following went up probably by 500% from the video I posted of him because he said he was a rapper. I say, okay, let's create something together. And that video is still just being shared all over. So I say this all to say that sometimes we have an idea of how God is going to present us to the world. And then he has a better idea. And I realized that I was what felt stuck in Uber, but it was God creating the biggest stage that I've probably ever been on in the most intimate way to really connect with people and to be of service. And it's just a different posture when you're serving your community. Yeah. Like, absolutely. When people put you up here versus when they can meet you right here, you can do way more right here. Absolutely. And so here I am doing ministry full time.
You out of the Uber ride, mama.
The rideshare queen. And so, you know, like I always do, I call myself strategic ministries because, you know, I'm going to figure out how to make it make sense and make sense. And so there was another Uber passenger. How to make it make sense and make it make sense.
Yeah, that was a good one, Lana Mama.
So
just breeze over that.
Another Uber passengers, because these people have been blessing me. I had met, which is when my mindset about me being an Uber driver shifted. She had shared with me a series by this Pastor Mike Todd, and she said she had just moved to Oklahoma to be a part of this ministry that he started. And she was telling me about him. I was like, I've heard of him before. She's like, and I said, well, if there was something you really wanted me to listen to, what series would you want me to listen to about him? She said, the name of the series that I want you to listen to is called Planted, Not Buried.
Planted, Not Buried.
Planted, Not Buried. And that hit me so hard that I'm like driving the Uber and tears just instantly start coming out of my eyes because I had felt buried. I felt ashamed. I felt like he didn't see me. I felt so many things that made me feel buried. And when she said that, it was just almost like I embraced the dirt. I embraced the tunnel. I embraced the shield. I embraced all of it because I realized that this season of my life, God was deepening my roots so my tree can go further than it ever would have been able to. And one of my phrases that I've coined during the season is that you can build far more in the valley than you ever could on the mountain, which is why I launched my Planted collection. So for anybody that is in a season where they feel lost, you feel like you're not being seen and you're not moving forward, this is just your reminder that you are being planted for something bigger than you could ever imagine. And that all of your dreams are inside of you. He hasn't forgotten about you. You are seen, you are being heard, but those roots are going so deep so your tree can go so far. And I'm so happy to be right here. I'm so happy to be right here. Like, this might be my favorite season. This might be my favorite chapter.
That's a beautiful thing, and it ain't boring, by the way. It ain't boring. The story.
Oh, honey, it's giving trials and tribulations. It's giving wounded and weary. We almost.
Okay,
it's giving.
I'm telling you, you like you have said, you have rebranded and come back a different version of yourself every time, and that's one thing that I can take from you is although we may go through some things that make us forget who we are, maybe sometimes, we can always come back a different person and that a different version of ourselves, and it be a better version than when we left. So I appreciate you, Deanna, for all of what you've given me today. The lessons, the story, the beautiful story. I think you're my favorite overcomer, my favorite dreamer so far because of the things that I knew and some of the things that I didn't even know. So I appreciate you, girl. I thank you so much.
Do it afraid. Do it afraid. Do it afraid.
Do it afraid. Do it hungry. Do it broke. Do it scared. Just do it. And at the end of the day, we're doing it for ourselves. We have to do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
And you're a living testament of that. Now, I have 2 more questions for you. And the first question to you is, after all is said and done, Deanna, when you leave this earth, what would you say you want your legacy to be?
Ooh, that's a good question. My legacy will be of service to the music community. I want to give to hopefuls what maybe I didn't have. And I always say, like, my hunger for more is so I can give more. It really genuinely is. It's like, I don't want anyone, I have dreams of owning compounds in Atlanta, LA, New York, where people pay to live there by using their gifts.
Wow.
Like, literally, I want them to be, they literally, as long as you're working, everything will be in-house. You have producers, engineers, writers, singers, rappers, all living in this house, and they're paying their way by using their gifts. And that way they're not worried about being homeless. Because I just know, like, that journey is scary when you don't know how you're going to eat, where you're going to sleep. I really want to be of service to my community, so that's one piece of it. And just to make sure that the heart of our community is being sought after by me, by each other, bringing more visibility to mental health and making that the most important thing beyond it all. It's so important. And checking on people after their big rise, because like I said, life after success is probably the scariest time for most. So.
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was really beautiful.
Thank you.
And I want you to make that happen. I want to apply. You start what I gotta do?
You gotta sing.
Okay,
you gotta use your gift.
Okay. So legacy speaks to the future because you're still here. If there was anything that you could say to the 4, 5, or 6-year-old Deanna Dixon, what would that be?
You are enough.
You are enough.
You were always enough.
And you will always be enough.
You will always be enough.
More than enough.
You are more than your gifts. You are more than your gifts. I see you. I love you. You are necessary to this world. Whether if you ever open your mouth to sing again, you are still necessary.
Deanna, you are a beautiful light to this world. You have given me exactly what I thought you were going to give me, and that is you. It's pure. It was beautiful. It was inspiring, uplifting, and you've helped me sitting on the couch. And I know you're going to help somebody else continuously, as you have been. That compound, that idea, those ideas, this ride share thing, anything that you put your mind to will continue to be successful like it has been. Just keep building your story. Keep letting your fans, your audience, us, the people, know that you know you got it, because you do got it. You are a living legend. You are an icon walking out in these streets of Atlanta, and I really want you to receive that. Your yes really made my day, and I couldn't thank you any more than
it was such an easy yes.
Period. Okay, so before we get out of here, please tell these people where they can find you at.
Okay. You can find me at I am Deanna Dixon on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, as well as the Rideshare Queen on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, share, and watch the full video, because I need some more watch hours.
It's good. It's worth your watch.
It really is. It's entertaining. It really is.
So, Dream Team family, Deanna Dixon. With that being said, there's simply nothing else to say. So what you can do for me is turn the lights off, baby.
Turn the lights off.